Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Money with Wendy Silebi. My guest this morning is John Manyike, the Group Head of Consumer Financial Education and Media Spokesperson at Old Mutual. And he's also a member of the Board of the Trustees of Asisa. I am actually so excited today to be having this conversation with John. I think him and I, as the young people would say, we are the same WhatsApp group. We are passionate, we are crazy about financial wellness, literacy, education, inclusion. So already off camera, we've already had 30 minutes discussion, and I think you are in for a good session today. So John, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I just did a brief introduction, but I think there's more to John.
Yeah.
So I'd like you to just share with us who you are, where you come from, where you grew up, a little bit about your resume, where you come from. And I'd like you to just share with our viewers.
I was born in Soweto, Klipspruit in particular.
Oh.
While others would be even more specific and say Kobara.
The biggest hospital,
But then when I turned 7, relocated to Limpopo, and I spent most of my schooling years in Limpopo. And I think it really did it had a huge impact on me. I mean, living in Limpopo because of the culture, the humility of people by Limpopo. And then, of course, I mean, Gauteng or Soweto in particular gives you, streetwise, of being able to think on your feet and all that. So I guess one has grace of, both worlds in that sense. Yeah, look, I come from a family where my late father had 3 wives, and it was 13 of us as children, the ones we knew, because we met others after the funeral of our father. And it's been quite an interesting journey of life. Recently turned 50, which is a huge milestone. But I meet some people sometimes, and I look at them and I ask their age, and I find that they're younger than me. But when I look at them, I said, "Wow!" I can only say thank you, God, because it's grace that we're alive. I'm a strong believer and love the people of Israel. Because people, I guess, they read the scriptures, but then they forget where it actually started from. And I'm mentioning this simply because you asked the question about who I am, and I'm very open about my spiritual beliefs and my stand as far as that is concerned, because in life you have to stand for something. But having said that, I mean, my passion is financial education or financial wellness. I actually believe it's a calling. You don't just do this kind of a thing unless you're passionate about it. And you can wake me at any time of the day, and I would talk financial education.
Yeah. So would you say that your stay maybe Limpopo, when you look at different worlds, Soweto, Limpopo, and maybe let me ask, how Limpopo, was it in the villages? Did that maybe have an impact on you then, thinking around financial literacy, or did that have an influence when you were in Limpopo?
Look, I think every experience in life produces who we are today. I mean, my exposure, having lived in Limpopo, look, it wasn't necessarily a village, it was a township, but of course the relatives were in the village. I've had to start there, in the village, very young, understand the life there. Can you imagine coming from Soweto and then boom, you've relocated, and then you go and see your relatives and in a village, and some of them are shepherds of the Pudi and all that, and And then they're amazed that, why are you running like this? That's not how you do it. If you're a shepherd, you're going to get tired. But it was just excitement. Okay. Because these things, we don't see a lot of them go Soweto. You don't just see Batuafita Homo and all that. So when you're there, you're just excited to see those things.
Okay.
I did lose 1 year of my life because I had to learn to speak the language. Because moving to Limpopo, I could only speak Sesotho at that age. I had to learn. So I had to lose at least 1 year of my life, or schooling year, because I'm having to learn the language. But overall, the culture is amazing. I think people of Limpopo have such an amazing culture from a humility point of view, down to earth. Of course, over time, culture changes and shifts that happen. And then, of course, you have the benefit of Kokasi. You need someone who you can't be timid. If you want to survive in Gauteng or Soweto in particular, you can't afford to be timid. You have to be able to think on your feet and be able to identify opportunities, but move faster. Because life is faster.
Okay. No, thank you for just giving me that background. It's always good to understand. When we were growing up, Lina, ke go deep Orlando West, better part of my life, Orlando West, and because really batho ba mo locationeng ka di holidays, they used to take us Kopos Plus, go Hammanskraal, just to expose us to the other side of the world, where there was no running water, no electricity. We used to hate going there, but hindsight, when I look at it, it's really helped me to be a balanced person. And fast forward, when I started working in the rural areas, I could acclimatize quicker because, you've had an experience like that one. So your passion about financial literacy, what sparked the love for this type of work? It's not work for you, it's a calling, just like it is for me.
Yeah. Absolutely. People will be surprised if I say, some point in my life, went into some serious debt. I was literally into it. Boom! And I think it happened when I got scammed together with other friends, and we got scammed into some property thing, and everything just looked legit. The guys were well connected, they were lawyers, the banks, the bond originators, everything checked out. But little did we know that we were buying into a scheme where the developer, I wouldn't even call him a developer, because I don't know what to call that guy. But anyway, so he sold us this dream. Or you buy this piece of land, and from this piece of land, he will subdivide it, he will rezone, subdivide, and he'll sell it for profit. And he even said, don't worry, the first 6 months I'll make sure that I give you money to pay the bonds, so that while I'm rezoning, so that you don't have to worry. All you need is your exposure to acquire. So we said, this looks brilliant. And so we went there. But what was unique was that it was, unfortunately, a couple of white people, but predominantly targeting your black middle class. The kind of people they were targeting, they knew that they could afford, or that they couldn't. When I say afford, I mean, they've got good credit worthiness, and because of their income, banks will look at them favorably. So we went there, a couple of us young black guys, and we went there, only to find later on, the value of those pieces of land were overstated. Can you imagine buying land worth 300,000? You're buying it for 1.3 million.
My Lord.
We assumed banks are aware and they would do evaluation and all that. Well, it didn't happen that way. Boom, then the guy disappeared after 6 months. Then we're stuck with this volume of debit orders and all that. And I went into debt. Boom, Gaja dust. I saw how my life was going into so much debt. I ended up going to debt review. It was a mess. At one stage, the bank wanted to repossess my house, and and the finance of my car. It was such a mess. You know how to work a climax,
Yeah.
That's where I was.
Yeah.
So, and then I was advised, no, man, try debt cancelling. Okay, I went there and I got stuck. And when I saw the pain that I saw my family go through, and literally one day I remember taking a picture of my fridge. I opened the fridge. The only thing that was in the fridge was one onion. I'm not exaggerating. One onion.
Wow. And a bottle of water.
Even the complimentary one. And then finally, this thing, you know the margarine. It comes in the container. It was just a container margarine and one onion, and that complimentary, the water bottle that comes in the fridge. And I realized, no, how did I get here? I realized there's a lot of ignorance. We are too complacent. We are gullible. And that's where I started feeling that, no, man, somebody needs to do something and just empower people, and so people can make informed financial decisions. To cut the long story short, eventually I came out of debt. It was just miraculous how I came out the 180, because some of the things that happened at the time, and just somebody saying, I want to sell I want to buy your house, and we structured a deal, and the guy gave me a deposit, and the guy himself said, no, listen, if I fail to raise these funds in 6 months, you can have your property back, and I'll forfeit 50% of my deposit. Guess what? Then he failed. So, but what he gave me, I was able to settle my debt, and then eventually I recovered. And after that, I said no. Then there was an opportunity at Old Mutual for a role of head of financial education. And I said, this is the one. And since then, I felt it's my way of giving back, having gone through those terrible experiences. When somebody says kidikoloto,
you know what they're
I know what it
talking
means.
about. Yeah.
When somebody says debt collectors are calling me, they're asking me to make arrangement. I can only afford 500 rand, and they say no, it's not acceptable. We need 2,000 rand. I know what it feels like when you're trying to make an arrangement. And this arrangement is based on what you can truly afford. And they're not interested. No. And they say, no, what can you do? There's nothing you can do. I know how it feels. I know the impact of being so much in debt to a point where your children feel it. Because there's hardly food. Month end comes the very same day that payday. You don't actually look forward to payday. So I know what it's like. And I think that's really had a lot of influence in me doing the kind of work. That's why when I talk personal finance, I avoid this jargon. I want to simplify it to a man in the street. I think financial education is a boring subject. You need someone that can make the subject come to life. The kind of examples you make, so people can relate. Absolutely, I like that. You need to be a storyteller so people can relate and understand.
Wow. Okay, lesson learned from what you've just said. Number one, if it's too good to be true, always check and recheck, because most of the time when people get into financial difficulties, it's because this deal about feeling it was just too good to be true. And I think sometimes you look at who is there, these lawyers and whatever, but not everything is good. And lesson number two is that even if you get into deep debt, there's always a way out. It's not the end. Because I think a lot of people, when they get into those challenges, then their mental health issues are triggered, and then they think the only way out, is taking my life. But there is a way of getting out. And I resonate with what you've said, because if you've never been in debt, you can never be able to talk about it. When I talk financial literacy or education, I talk my story. The money mistakes that I've made. Because I've made many. And I've worked for a financial institution for 37 years. But my mistakes, oh my goodness. So, and I think that's what makes us to be so passionate about what we're doing, because we've been there. And that's why we're doing it. Okay. So, Old Mutual is big on financial wellness, financial literacy. you've done some amazing work. I mean, when I was at the Green Bank, you were my competitor, so to speak, but in a nice manner, you know.
Yeah.
And I would always marvel at the work that you're doing. And so I wanted to just talk a little bit about Moneyversity. Maybe just introduce to us what Moneyversity is and why you did it and what the benefit is.
So at Old Mutual, there are quite a number of financial education initiatives which focuses on different types of clients, because there are, people have different income levels, and because of people's circumstances and the kind of lifestyle they live based on their income, they tend to relate to money in a different way. So we end up developing these different programs to talk to different audiences. It does have its own challenges, but I mean, that's how it evolved. So one of our segments called Personal Finance, and they put this together an initiative called Moneyversity, and targeting young people. And really the focus was on young people for that, and produced a couple of videos, and we've gone on to build more of that content, and that's why you'll find that as part of the Old Mutual rewards, you can actually earn points by doing some of those Moneyversity modules, and you actually earn points. And to earn points, you don't necessarily have to be an Old Mutual customer. You can actually earn points by just simply subscribing or registering on there. So that's how that evolved. And then we went on. I mean, there were other initiatives, like, for example, in the corporate space, where we focus on fund members. I'm talking, when I say fund members, these are people who are contributing towards a pension or provident fund via the employer, and the Old Mutual provides the service from a consulting or administration point of view. So you find that we would then put together some courses or modules for people to understand the funds that they are in. So there will be some kind of a member education, but then we'll then bring in other things like the On the Money program that looks at the big 5 secrets of money management. So that's how we actually build these different programs to talk to people at different life stages.
I love that. I love that the part where you educate around the different funds. The difference between a pension and a provident fund. I mean, when I started work on the 1st of May 1985, I walked in and I was sitting across, and they said, okay, here are your documents, Kasaina, and then Bambuza. What do you want? Pension or provident fund? And I'm thinking, what are those things? And I'm too afraid to ask, because you think if I ask, they might just take up this contract and tear it up. So then I was thinking, I've heard my parents talk about a pension. I chose pension fund. And I mean, in this day and age, you don't have to do Russian roulette to choose your fund if the education is there. So I think I like that people need to know what they have chosen, what a provident fund is and what a pension fund is. And another interesting aspect that maybe I'll come back for at a later stage is to talk about this new two-pot system that's coming and all of those things. But hey, if Rika Kenamo, I don't know, you and I, it's a minefield, So I'm going to try and bring it down. One of the things that Old Mutual does that I love, it's the Old Mutual Savings and Investment Monitor. I mean, I've done a lot of my presentation taking, my content from there, because you've done the research, you've engaged with the people, and you give the results. Why did you think it was important to do the monitor? And maybe just highlight what are the 2 or 3 things that you want, South Africans to gain or learn from the monitor.
So I think there's been a lot of narrative out there, Hori. South Africa doesn't have a culture of saving. And then you ask yourself, okay, if you say South Africa doesn't have a culture of saving, why do we have over 50 billion rand circulating in the informal sector through the stokvels? Is it really a problem of a lack of culture of saving? Or is it the culture of, we don't have a culture of investing? I think there's a distinction that we need to appreciate there, that I don't think South Africa has a problem with saving per se, from a culture point of view. We just don't think long term. And when I say we don't think long term, it runs in our DNA as South Africa. We're not the kind of people who like thinking long term. We have a load shedding today. That's a classic example of lack of scenario planning and thinking long term and actually implementing upfront. You look at the kind of traffic that we have on our roads. It's another classic example of lack of long-term thinking and scenario planning, because I don't think anybody could imagine at the time that there would be such an explosion from a population point of view. I'm talking about a working population, that suddenly you'll have a lot of black South Africans who can afford cars on the roads, and the roads cannot accommodate the number of people. Somebody might argue, no, but then there was apartheid, blah, 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 blah. Yes, but from the time that we're a democratic government, one can argue and say, well, look, we need to be thinking long term. I know I'm talking from a macro level, but there's a reason I'm showing that, because a culture of thinking long term is very critical in any society. So I think for us to think of OMSIM was to say, let's understand this animal called saving and investment. You can't deal with a problem you don't understand. So when we started doing Old Mutual Savings and Investment Monitor, we started tracking the savings and investment behaviors of South Africans, over time. And what is the outlook? What do people feel like when it comes to managing their finances? Do they have confidence in the ability to manage their finances? What is their confidence in the economy? What are they stressing about? And the more we interview South Africans, then the picture was emerging, and you started seeing the kind of things that South Africans love. But I love the fact that the monitor is also showing us that South Africans are resilient. South Africans are extremely resilient. It's amazing how even when things are tough, they are able to find alternative ways to survive. I mean, we look at how South Africans have survived COVID, for example. It's amazing how people have found ways. And we take those trends and play it back to South Africa to say, actually, if you find yourself in the same situation, these are the type of coping mechanisms that South Africans have used successfully. And perhaps this is an opportunity. And it's based on research. It's not about just giving people recommendations about what they can do with their finances. It's about tapping into research, looking at what those trends. And I think that has evolved over time. Yeah.
I love it. I always wait for the monitor to come out, and I look at it year on year, and I look at the trends, whether our savings or our investments are going up or they're going down. So that's a great piece of work that you do there.
Thank you.
And when you talk about long-term thinking, planning. I had a discussion with a behavioral economist in one of the episodes, and we were talking, and she was talking about that to say most of the time what people do, they take long-term goals and make them short-term.
Yes.
And then the things that are short-term, they actually delay them for the long-term. So it's just a change of mindset. Now, you've done some mind-blowing work on television shows. I mean, on Moja Love, you've curated I Blew It, Kuzeka, and you did one with couples. Let's just talk around that. I mean, I Blew It. I couldn't watch it. I watched 3 or 4 episodes, and then I ended up crying when I was looking at how people would blow 14 million in 2 months or 3 months. I couldn't take it. My heart would bleed. We haven't done enough to help our people. And you said something powerful earlier off screen. You said, money doesn't amplify who you are.
It doesn't change.
It doesn't change your person, but it just amplifies who you are, your character. Then boom, you just get amplified. So maybe let's talk about I Blew It, Kuzeka, and Live for Better or for Worse.
So look, I mean,
it's short, ne?
Yeah. So the I Blew It show has always been there, but then we realized that there's something missing here. And what is missing is a financial coach to actually explain to people what actually happened, what could have been done differently. And that's how we came into the scene, and we approached them and said, look, we want to play a part, but we want to see if we can help some of those people who unfortunately made some bad decisions. Let's give them a second chance. And that's how the second chance chapter started. So I was asked to be the face of the brand and in engaging with some of those characters who went through these challenges. So that's how we got involved. And subsequent to that, then there was another idea of having something similar, but looking at a toned down version of I Blew It called Kuzeka, but it's produced by the same person, by the way. The same person who came up with the concept, I Blew It, came up with Kuzeka. We went to Moja Love and we pitched and they loved it. And then we went on with Kuzeka. Kuzeka then looks at people, it's families confronting their loved ones while they are blowing their money. That's why it's called Kuzeka. And then we went on to do another one called Ifalami. It's a Moja Love property. One of the shows we love because it's very educational, where you have families that are swindled their inheritance by family members, and we explain why having a will is important. But it's a reality show. It's relatable content. You want to make sure that people can relate. And then there was the For Better or Worse. This is really about couples and talking about money, because money issues and couples. Yay. That's a subject on
for another day. We must do a session around that, right? Yeah. Okay. So maybe let's just thank you so much for that. I mean, I watched Ifalami. At least Yona, I could sit and watch it, and I think I love the fact that you can present financial education matters in such a way that people can relate. I mean, I would see the joy of the people, more Ifalami, when they discover, that they had an inheritance all along and they were not even aware, or some of them they were swindled. And I loved the couples one, the people that you were talking to. And by the way, you have a podcast as well, and your podcast is on fire. And I've watched it. You interview celebrities and all of that. So as we head towards the end of this conversation, because if I don't do this, we can have a 2-3 hour long session. I want to talk about the big 5 secrets.
Yes.
I love the big 5 secrets. In the beginning, when Nedbank and Old Mutual were still sister brother, when they came up with this concept, I was there. Maybe you were there. I was still young, and maybe you don't recognize, but we were there to listen to, the big 5, the concept, and I just love what you've done with it, revamping it, making look good, and I thought it would be great for us to talk about it, because we're heading into the season where in a few months' time, people will be getting the bonus, the back pay, the shelter, the stock fell. Wrong, man. December, man. People will be excited, and I want us just to talk around, the big 5, the principles there, and see how we can help the people that are watching this to think much better about their finances. When they get into contact with this money, they can apply the big 5. So we'll start with the lion. Eat first, ahead of the pack.
So I think maybe as I go into that one, also to explain where the big 5 concept came from. Remember, you have the big 5 on our money. South African Reserve Bank notes. So you've got the animals, but we're saying, but there's a meaning behind the animals. And if you study the character of each animal that is on your money, and that's why the program was called On the Money.
On the Money,
Yes, because it is on the money, looking at the big 5 secrets of money.
I love it. So people must start looking at their money differently.
Absolutely.
Like Nedbank. They must start looking at their money differently. From now on, what's about choco or 50 rand or 200. Check the animal on it and apply this big 5 principles. And the other advantage is that because when you start associating a money principle with a character that is on your money, which is like in this case, we want to zoom into the lion, it helps you with recall. It's easy to remember the principle because we explained it. All right, now looking at the lion, for example, which is on a 50 rand note, because people will see this lion on the 50 rand note. I know some people are saying, since I can say the lady Tatu Mandela, Charlotte Mufi high last. So I don't know, anyway, we'll focus on the animals today. All right?
So let's focus on the animal. So the lion, we know that it's actually the female lion that does the hunting, but it's the male lion that eats first. We're not saying people must try this at home, you know. But the principle there is that the male lion understands that, and the female lion understands that if the male lion eats first, he'll be strong enough to protect the family from the hyenas and other scavengers that might want to pounce on the prey. So that's the principle there. So we're saying from a money perspective, you need to learn to pay yourself first. Learn to eat first. When we say eat first, we don't mean six-pack, or maybe go and do your hair and what, and then afterwards come and punish yourself.
Yeah.
But what we mean is treat savings as an expense, put money aside. So the problem is that a lot of people want to pay, they want to pay everybody. But themselves. But, again, we put this into context to those who are spiritually minded. When we say money, pay yourself, we're talking about money that belongs to you. So I think that's to put a disclaimer there, so that so, but then be that as it may. So we're saying if you apply that principle where you save at least 10%, then don't prioritize paying your debts. Yes, debts are important. What I mean that some people again might misunderstand the context. We're saying prioritize savings before you pay your debts. Somebody will argue as well and say, but saving versus paying your debt and all that. But I mean, that's a subject for another day. So that's the lion. Then
and before we move from the lion, I love the principle, pay yourself first. It's a principle of self-love. When you pay yourself first, you literally are thanking yourself because you survive a lot coming to work. You work with people who probably don't like you or your boss or whatever. And you've worked hard.
Yes.
The first principle would be the principle of self-love.
Yeah.
Eat first. Prioritize your savings and your investment first. And actually there's a saying that says the first person that you pay becomes your God. So if you are owing and you're always paying debts, then they become your God. Yeah.
In fact, even when you go to a plane, the announcement they make firstly is, in the unlikely event of cabin pressure, put the oxygen mask on who first?
How do you?
Because can you help someone when you are struggling yourself?
Never. I never. Okay, let's go to the leopard.
So the leopard is renowned for its vision.
Which?
The leopard is on your 200 rand note.
What's again here?
And I'm glad you are asking because some people don't know which animal is where. Because I know Raswaipa is plastic money. But anyway, the leopard is renowned for its vision. It has such a powerful vision. And it is a patient hunter. Now, these are all characteristics that you need when you are dealing with money. You need to be patient. You need to have a vision. A lot of people struggle with money because they don't have a vision. You just wake up in the morning, you eat, you go to work, you come back, you sleep. Same routine, you get paid, but you don't have a clear vision. What is it that you want to achieve in life? So have a vision, have a goal. And then the issue of patience is, and I like what somebody once said, if you're not patient, you become impatient. So if you are patient, when you are saving and investing, you need to apply a lot of patience. So unfortunately, we have a society that wants instant gratification. We want everything to happen fast, and it doesn't work like that when it comes to investing. So that's what the secret of the leopard is all about.
And I love the secret of the leopard because what vision does, it gives you a picture of a preferred future. You are here, but you have this future that you envisage for yourself. So as you are working, as you are waking up and having this money, you are then, able to have a purpose that you're working towards. But if you don't have the vision of the leopard, then you're just going about.
In fact, even the word provision has a vision. That's why it's called provision. You won't have provision in future if you never had a vision.
There we go.
So that's what provision is about.
Love it. Let's go to the elephant.
So the elephant, we know it's renowned for its memory. So it never forgets. The elephant is on your 10 rand note. The elephant is on the 20 rand. I beg your pardon. It's the 10 rand is actually the rhino.
Okay.
I beg your pardon. Yeah. I just had a vision there.
Yeah.
All right. So
a vision. Okay.
So the elephant is renowned for its memory. I say it never forgets. I mean, it's got a very long-term memory. So this talks to budgeting.
Mental. Accounting. Mental budgeting.
You don't have the memory of the elephant to remember everything. And that's why even when people go shopping without a shopping list and you are relying on this, you end up buying things that you didn't need. So we encourage people to have a budget. When you write a budget on a piece of paper never forgets, like the elephant.
A piece of paper even talks to you.
Yes.
Because as you are writing,
Yes.
wipe on. Can you see you're skating on thin ice?
Yes.
Wow, I love that. And one of the things that you say, a principle is that knowledge is power.
100%.
And I love to say applied knowledge is power, you know. So if you have that memory of an elephant, then you'll be able to apply that. Let's go to the rhino. 10 rand.
Yeah. So the rhino, if you want to see a dentist without an appointment, try and tamper with a rhino and its little one. So a rhino charges towards its biggest threat. And we're saying this is the approach you need to have when it comes to dealing with debts.
Yay.
You need to charge down your debts. In other words, pay more than what is required so you can pay your debt faster. If you, on your bond, if you're paying extra on your bond, you're going to reduce the number of years that you have to pay that bond. That's a great example there, yeah. And the interest that you have to pay. So that's what we mean by charging down your debts.
Okay, awesome. The last one is the buffalo.
Yes. So a buffalo, if you look at the buffalo, most of the time they move in herds. So there are multiples. The strength of the buffalo is in the numbers because they move in groups. And that, for me, summarizes the whole concept of insurance. Insurance is about the pooling of resources, just like the head of a buffalo would be moving in numbers because they intimidate some of the predators like your lion.
Like your lion,
because they see, hey, there can be a stampede, they step on me, I'm finished. So that's why even when they hunt, and when your lions and the leopards are hunting buffalo, they try and look for smaller groups. Not only smaller group, but even within the smaller groups, they are looking for the one that's limping or the youngest one. They calculate. They don't just pounce them, but the strength is in the number. So what it means is the whole thing about insurance is it is enabled because you are investing in a pool where there are other people who are investing. Or even if it's a risk cover of some sort. But the reason it's enabled is because there are other people who are putting money in a pool so that risk is covered, because the assumption is that you won't die all at the same time. Or the risk won't, if it's cars, for example, it's not like all your cars in one day will be there. So somebody will claim this month and then you won't claim maybe after 3 years. But whilst others are claiming, others are not claiming. So it's the pooling of resources. It just summarizes the concept of insurance. The other thing that it highlights is asset protection because they protect each other through the numbers. So asset protection means as you acquire assets, find a way to protect those assets. And short-term insurance is definitely one of the ways. Life cover is a good thing because it protects income that your family would have lost in the event of death.
I like that concept of working in a herd and pooling resources together because it also applies to your unit trust. The stock fail.
Yes,
I mean,
same concept.
I always ask myself, okay, if Batubali was stock failing, bansa 500 rands. Why would they take 500 rands and put it into a funeral? Why don't they split it into 4 ways?
Yes.
Probably 100 rands towards travel.
Yes.
Because they've never even traveled to more breads. 100 rands towards travel, 100 rands or 200 towards savings and investment. And then the other, and even that 200 by break, 100 into unit trust, another into something, then one into groceries, another 100 into insurance. Then what you have done, you've taken the money that you pulled together and it grows much quicker, 5 ways than 1 way. Okay. So as we bring our conversation to a close, we are going into that season here, but your excitement all around our shopong, and they also have a way of getting us excited. Father Christmas and people just get excited. They've got this money and that has come in, and what they don't realize is that the festive is 2 weeks.
Yes.
And then what follows is 5 weeks. That sounds like 50 weeks of January, where now they have to pay school fees, they have to pay university fees, and all of that. How would you advise people now that this season is upon us?
The irony of this is they call it the 13th check. But the 13th check I last until the 13th of December. So that's the irony. But I always say to people, don't go into a festive season without a budget. Every festive season needs to have a specific budget. If you're expecting visitors, budget for those visitors. If you're going to be traveling, budget for it. You can't be traveling that December, installment because you're going to have a problem. So, because that's what happens. Yes, and you say you did in January, and then you're already in arrears, and if then you start the whole year on a bad footing. So it's important to go into a festive season with a budget, be clear, and then number 2, prioritize your debt. So a lot of people get paid early in December, around about the 20th, because even payroll wants to close early. The people who work there, so they forget this. I just got paid in end of November. And then in less than 4 weeks, I get paid again, 20. And they forget that this salary that comes in on the 20th of December, thereabout, is not for December. It's for January. But if you spend 2 salaries in one month, then you have a problem. In fact, your problems will have grandchildren. So rather, prioritize the things that you're supposed to be paying, your bond or your rent, your lights, water and lights, and then the December one, because kia January, that's where you need to be provisioning for school fees, for stationery, for uniform. So if you can, start buying your stationery at December for January. There are a lot of responsible parents who are buying stationery already at December for January. And you will have peace. Rather, even if you spend money, but you've covered your essentials.
Every time I do one of these podcast sessions, it doesn't end without us not talking about a budget.
Yes.
And yet, budget people, babangada, they don't want to do it. They want to do this mental accounting. And the budget is so important in managing your finances. And not just managing them, and making sure that you master them. There's a difference between managing and mastering. And until all of us get into using the budget to manage and master and implement what we have put on that piece of paper, we're going to always have pain points. And so there you have it. Think about that. December, November, you get 2 salaries, and one you get it in advance, and you're supposed to actually save it and actually apportion it for the things that it's supposed to be used for. So we cannot stress between the two of us the importance of using a budget. We sound like a broken record, but we will continue to be like that until someone takes a pen and a paper and start using their budget. Well, we've come to the end of this conversation, and I mean, it's been an empowering conversation, enlightening. I'm very excited. It's always so exciting to speak to a like-minded person that thinks like you and so on. So whenever we come to the end of the session, I always ask my guests to scatter a seed of wisdom, something that people, when they think about this episode, they'll remember, John said this. Let me hold on to this one thing and let it propel me into 2024 and beyond.
Right. A lot of people have a long distance relationship with money because they live a wow life on a lol budget.
They live a wow life on a lol budget. Yes. Okay.
So that's how I sign up.
There you have it. Please don't live a wow life with a lol budget. There's a lot that has been said here. John, thank you. Thank you so much for this conversation. I leave here so excited, so empowered, so even motivated to do more, and let's go out there and let's just share this knowledge. This was another episode, and I hope that you will love it. Thank you for watching. Until next time.